Hello, everyone, and welcome to Decode Plus, Episode 4 for the month of May 2025. That's Kenneth finally has his comeback Cardez, and I'm Taylor Still Sick May. Glad to have you here.
I'm glad to be back. I'm practicing my best blue steel voice. Anyway, welcome back. How we doing today?
Um, Slowly getting better. I've been sick now for collectively now, I think about a month and a half, maybe, just nonstop. It's just getting better and worse. I'm finally on the upswing, hopefully going to be done with this, but like I've
It's a
got
very
tea.
long time to have.
Yeah, it's
Was it a cold?
it's I what my doctor and I think it was is that it was just rampant allergies that ended up progressing into a respiratory illness, just like some kind of infection or something like that. But
Okay.
I have a follow up with her on Wednesday, so we'll reassess at that point. But for now, I got some hot tea, cough drops, inhaler if I absolutely need it, in case I go into a laughing fit tonight, which is probably bound to happen. You never know, especially on this show.
For sure. We got a good show lined up for today too. A lot has happened in the past month since our last episode. Um, I think we're going to be selective on what we're doing on today's episode, especially because I want to talk about a particular genre of shooter that is somehow becoming the next big thing. Like we had the battle royale craze some time back, and now all of a sudden it seems like every developer wants to make an extraction shooter for some reason.
I was gonna say, Ken, would that
And
type of game have anything to do with the title of our episode today?
yes, it would. But before we can get into that, let's talk about what we've been gaming in the past months. Obviously, we've all been on Helldivers, and if you follow our content, you know that we dropped our season finale to Malevelon Creek, our very democratic miniseries, which just dropped on YouTube earlier today. Um, I'm ecstatic that it's done, and I'm also ecstatic that I got to be a part of this playing the totally, heroic and totally not a bad guy, Master Sergeant Zed. But you have to watch the episode to understand all that. But we all had our respective roles in the show. We had some fun doing dialogue and playing and setting it up, and it was a lot of fun. And I'm glad that I was glad to be a part of it, as I am with all digital era entertainment products. And it's this one in the very best way showcases our efforts with our very little to no budget way of creating things. We put together things very Frankenstein, with like duct tape and Fisher Price parts sometimes. And we make it work, and it's a great thing. We took like we did, this was no animation. We just literally recorded ourselves playing the game, dubbed over it, and we made it work,
Yeah.
and it was a good
Not
time. Uh,
not everything we do here at Digital Era is held together by duct tape and a dream, but you know what? We make it work.
we were going to use literal action figures at one time. That is crazy. I don't know how that would have been done. Were we going to stop motion the thing? That would have taken years.
Man, we're like I that's straight up calling back to like a Arby and the Chief. Like back to that style of YouTube video. I don't know how many people remember
Right?
that. Wow, I'm probably dating myself hard there. Hi, I'm old. But yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun working on Malevelon Creek, the finale of which did just drop this morning on our YouTube channel. I was very happy and honored to be a part of it in the role that I was to be the voice of the chief, the resident tactician of the group, and this was such a great way for me to sort of I think I can officially call Malevelon Creek my first official voice acting role. Like, if I were to go out and like audition for other voice acting roles from now, Malevelon Creek is what's getting put on my resume as here's work I've done in the past for voice acting. I'm that proud of the work that I did, and
Exactly.
and I'm proud of the whole team. Like everyone, we sat through countless hours of grueling shooting, particularly for episode 4, because that was such a technically difficult episode to shoot cinematic wise. But everything came together so well and so perfectly. It was all 100% worth it. So please go check out the series on our YouTube channel. The whole team put so much love and work into this show. And we hope you enjoy it. All 5 episodes are now out for you to view for free on Digital Era Entertainment's YouTube channel.
Please remember to like and subscribe. Let me
Yes.
tell you at the end of all of it.
I always forget. I always forget the like and subscribe part, man. I've really, God, I have fallen off as a content creator.
It's fine. It's okay. That's what we're a team. You know, we have other members to pick it up and roll with it and keep it moving. Anyway, so has there been any games you've been playing recently? Because I got a couple that I want to talk about, but you know, this is our show and we're in this together, and I don't want to like overshadow.
I appreciate that, and I do actually have one that I've been getting back into. So, I think you and I have talked about this before that I have a soft spot for roguelikes. And
Right.
Hades is one that I've really been meaning to get into. It is on my list of games that I really want to play. But there's one in particular that I got into sometime I think last year with some friends of mine. It's called Gunfire Reborn. I'm
Okay.
trying to think of the best way to describe like the overall feel. It's think in terms of the overall feel of like the weapons and the hero abilities, it's like Overwatch meets Borderlands meets Super Animal Royale, for those who know what that is. And it's a very fast-paced, very colorful, action-packed roguelike first person. You work your way through various levels and various stages. There's a boss at the end of each world. You beat the boss to move to the next one. Or you get defeated at whatever point, and then whatever points that you accrue during that run, you can then put into your skill tree for that character to get stronger for the next run. And I've kind of been, over the past few, like couple weeks or so while I've been sick, is I've just been doing solo runs in Gunfire just to kind of like grind up XP and like grind up those points. So that way when I do go back to playing it with my friends as a group, I've basically been power leveling the hero that I play as. And it is so much fun. I highly recommend it. It's up to 4 players online, or you can play it solo. Either way. There's a lot of the game has a lot of DLC, which I haven't had a chance to look into quite yet. I've just been sticking with the base game, and even then, the base game is more than enough entertainment for me to keep me engaged, and that's playing through a lot of the same stages over and over and over again. Which even then, the stages each run they're not the same because they do change. Like you're in the same world technically, but the pathing through each stage will change each run. So it's like,
Procedurally generated.
yeah, exactly. And so that helps kind of keep it just different enough that it keeps you engaged without it feeling too monotonous. But
Mhm.
you also get used to the different types of enemies that you encounter in certain environments. You start to learn their weaknesses, the best way to defeat them, and they get easier to defeat as time goes on. Just one, by getting stronger as a character through doing multiple runs, but also just by learning the mechanics of those enemies and of those bosses. Which the bosses, if you don't like the actual like stage bosses, they have really interesting mechanics, but oh my god, you got to be on your A game if you're going to take those down. And like
For
like
sure.
most of them, I will guarantee you will not beat them on your first try, and that's okay. But It's a lot of fun. I highly recommend people check it out. It's called Gunfire Reborn. Uh, I play it on PC. I'm basically exclusively PC gamer.
Mhm.
Controller, you can play controller, mouse, and keyboard, whatever your choice. It is first person shooter, so I go mouse and keyboard because that's what I'm used to. But
Yeah,
it's completely your preference. Highly, highly recommend it.
it sounds good. I definitely will check it out. Like I'm very, very picky when it comes to the roguelike genre, so it has to have like a unique hook for me to constantly jump back in and do it over and over again. So like Hades had like the narrative aspect of it, and it's Greek mythology, which I'm a big fan of. So, I was automatically bought into that one. We showcased two that I really liked earlier in the previous iteration of this podcast. We showed off Dead Cells as well as Wizard. Oh my God, the name is blanking on me. But it's some wizard game where you play as like a literal sorcerer and you gotta go through each of the other sorcerers' castles to beat their powers, and you get power ups as you go. Wizard of Legend, I think that's the name of it.
Okay.
Um, so it's like super magic based and cool things. You know, but yeah, these type of games they generally have to have like uh an interesting hook. And of course, one of the best ones we got last year is a roguelike, and can't mention roguelikes without talking about Balatro. Um, because it's a roguelike poker RPG thing. So, just one more run. Uh,
I'm scared to look. Hold on. How? Because
how
even
many
then,
hours you put in?
even then, this number is not going to be accurate because this is not going to include the number of hours I have on mobile. Because yes, I did buy it twice. If I can get my Steam page to pull up, you can keep vamping while I get this pulled up.
Okay, well, while you get that information on, I'll talk about two of the games that I have been playing, that I've played recently. And of course, we're going to talk about the role-playing game sensation that has taken the gaming world by storm. And that is, of course, Clair Obscura Expedition 33.
Um, 80 hours on Steam.
80s. That's on Steam. Okay, and this
Yeah,
is
that's
not
just on that.
mobile.
That's not counting the hours that I have on mobile. So it's probably honestly closer to about 100,
Wow.
if not more.
Mhm. I want to talk about Clair Obscura Expedition 33, which came out of left field. It's always great when there's a very big surprise game that is super good and actually gets attention, because sometimes the surprise games are like more like sleeper hits and you don't really hear about them. And that's not the case with Clair Obscura Expedition 33. Like this game has been making the rounds. It's broken sales records. Hit 1 million sold in 3 days. Almost 2 million after almost 2 weeks, which is preposterous, especially for a game that has no major studio backing, very little marketing. This has mostly been a game pushed by word of mouth. Fantastic RPG, amazing story. We have your typical turn-based combat, but it has a parry system and a dodge system similar to something that you would find in like your action adventure games like Sekiro. And I compare it to Sekiro because the game does have that soulless feel in the fights, whether it's a regular enemy or a boss fight. So it really forces you to learn that parry and dodge system. But where it caught me was within the first hour of just how well the story is built up and you care for these characters and just meeting them, like just their dialogue with one another, the way they interact with one another, the way you interact with NPCs. It builds the world so well. And it's crazy that this came from a studio of 30 developers, one of them being a former Ubisoft lead who basically made this team because he was bored and then took other junior devs from Ubisoft and said, "Hey, you want to work on this game?" and found a composer off of SoundCloud on a forum.
Oh wow.
Like this game was put together by literal sorcery. and it's one of the best games I have played this year. Like I the opening scene, which many would know as the Gomage scene. Um, you follow this character Gustav and his love Sophie, and they're preparing for this festival, and you find out that this festival called the Gomage is actually kind of a somber one, and what the reason why it's somber is every year this being known as the Paintress paints a year on a mural, and then anyone that is of that age instantly disappears. Basically, they die, and they basically fade away into like rose petals, like painted petals, and you're building up with this, and everyone's like, yeah, like they're like happy about it because it's like a sense of togetherness or whatever. But then like the reality sets in, and there's a moment where Gustav looks at Sophie, and you realize, oh, she's one who's gonna go. And she looks at him, and he looks at her, and he's just like, I'm here. And she looks at him, and she's like, I know, I know. And tears are coming down her face. Sad French music is playing in the background. I'm like this with the controller in my hand. I'm just like, what? And then she fades away. And the minute it hits me is as she's fading away and the petals are peeling off her into like these rose petals, she closes her eyes. She closes her eyes like she's willing to let go. And then it cuts to Gustav's face, and you can tell he just has all this, like he's sad, but he is super pissed at the same time. And you're like, yeah, we need to go and stop that. And then the story goes on a million other twists and turns with all the characters you meet, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone who has yet to play it. Um, I highly recommend this game. It is currently like I don't like to say game of the year a lot, but man, like how this game was put together, how it's told, the story it has, the game it has. Like I don't normally like turn-based games, and it made me play a turn-based game. And I'm just like, wow, like it's just one of those games that really sits with you. And I think it's going to be talked about for a lot of reasons. Uh, Mostly the same reason that I'm going to talk about this next game I've been playing that I recently purchased on PSN. And it's a game called The Midnight Walk. And this game is it's an indie game. Um, it's a little bit on the short side. It's like 4 to 5 hours, like $40. And it's also from a brand new studio, very few developers. They designed this whole game using actual clay. Like they made the clay figures, they animated it using clay, and then uploaded all that data to the computer to make the game. And it's basically a cozy horror walking adventure. And it's just so artistically amazing and a very simple game. Like it's super good, and I can't recommend it enough. It's like playing if you remember Little Nightmares. Um, take Little Nightmares and put like a Tim Burton-esque design to it, or Kubo and the Two Strings. Like that's the closest that I can think of. Like that animation is just so good. And it's a pretty simple puzzler. There's not a lot of combat. You're just walking around with your character, and you're guiding this character. You're guiding this character called the Pot Boy. He's got his flame on his head, and the whole point of the game is you're on a quest to reignite the sun. And because the world's in perpetual darkness, all these dark creatures start coming down. You have to kind of like hide from the creatures and use light to kind of maneuver through and reach your goal. Um, and the narrative is just super cool. It has a lot of great themes. It touches on loss, death, grief, loneliness. Amazing game. Like I playing these games back to back, I was just like, oh wow, we're hitting it now. Like I think this is the year where we're going to start seeing these game of the year contenders, and I'm excited for this year's top 10.
Certainly sounds like it. Because like Expedition 33, like you mentioned, didn't really have a whole lot of marketing. I basically went from not having any idea it existed to it was the only thing I was hearing about overnight. just like
Right.
people were just raving about it. I was like, okay, I might need to actually check this out. And
It's a really
now
good game. It's super cheap.
we also have the Midnight Walk, which is I'm sorry, this is a video game that utilizes claymation.
Yeah,
Am I understanding that
they
right?
made everything. Yep, they actually used actual clay to design the characters, animated the clay, put all that data into a computer, made the game. Literal sorcery. I love when these studios do this. It,
Like it's I know this is probably the fourth episode in a row that I've said this about something. Who does that?
I honestly think it comes at a good time because we're in a day and age where like all these companies are trying to put out all this like bloated over budget things, you know, that have microtransactions or try to nickel and dime you in some way, shape, or fashion. And then you have studios out here that are just like, we're just gonna make what we like. Here you go, have fun. You know, you take for example these two. There's one that's coming out at the end of the month that I'm super excited about. It was made by 5 people. It's called Hypercharge Unboxed, and it's basically you're an action figure. You break out of your box and you go on an adventure and you fight like toy soldiers and dinosaurs in the backyard. 5 people made this game. It has a single player campaign. It has PvP, no battle passes. There's like a billion cosmetics, and they're all earnable in game. There's no battle pass. There's no season pass. It's literally you pay for the game at its base price and grind for it. And then they also have an edition that's like a little more expensive, and it just has all the things unlocked right off the get go. It's like, oh, if you don't want to play the game, you just want to buy it, you know. I'm like, no, I'm gonna get the cheap version. I want to play and grind and actually unlock the things and make like a random small soldiers GI Joe thing, you know.
That is
And like I'm looking at the industry and I'm just like more like this, please.
these AAA studios, like this year in particular, it seems like, are getting humiliated by indie
Hmm.
developers in terms of like production quality and narrative quality. It's
Hmm.
like the difference is night and day. The amount of
It really
work
is.
and love and passion that these indie devs put into their games, and you can feel it when you play them. Like you can tell that these indie devs, they love what they do and they want to make a game that other people will love, not just a game that's going to make money.
Yeah. And what's surprising though, it's not even like indie developers. They're just like they have the money and they're just doing their own thing. So I consider it more like the double A industry. Like yes, they have small teams that are akin to most indie developers, but the difference between indie and these guys have money and they're just choosing to spend it properly.
That's fair
And
enough.
I think I
But
said this in the
still,
Discord as well. I think the double A industry is what's going to keep video games afloat. They're putting out games at proportionate prices that people want. Like Clear Obscure is 39.99. People buying it left, right, front, and center. Midnight Walk might be the questionable one for you. It's a $40 game. The game's about 4 to 5 hours long, but it's so rich that I think it's worth it. Like, you know, normally I don't like when a game is like $60 and then I got 4 hours of gameplay and I'm like, whatever. You know, it really does depend on the experience. Um,
if you are looking to pick up the Midnight Walk, by the way, for those of you who are viewing, it is currently 10% off on Steam, so you can pick it up for $35 right now.
hashtag not sponsored, hashtag please sponsor us. But yeah, like this industry bloat, you know, this desire to go after fads rather than just make honest to good video games is a perfect segue to the main topic of today's show. Well, we're going to get to that in just one second. I do want to touch about another shooter before we get into the actual main shooter conversation. We
Sure.
had the Borderlands 4 State of Play earlier. And this is another game that's coming from a pretty big studio. It's a pretty big franchise. Um, but this State of Play was very different for some reason because normally I don't like when Randy Pitchford talks, But for some reason, he sounded so different when he was showing off Borderlands 4. I kind of feel like the shareholders kind of had a sit down with him and they were like, people don't like you. If you want to keep your job, please do this right. And so far, everything they showed off looks really good. You know, it's switching to a bigger, more open world-esque feel. They're removing the mini map, so it's pretty much like, hey, you want to go on this mission? Go anywhere, do anything. And I love when games have that, especially if it's an open world game where it kind of fits, where you got to use, sight lines, you have to use specific vantage points and whatnot. Um, I was very curious as to why Sony got the state of play for this. I kind of figured this would be a game that Gearbox would have, or 2K would have just showcased on their own. So I thought that was very interesting. But it's Borderlands, so
Yeah.
more Borderlands is always a good thing.
Oh, absolutely, and I'm I'm
Uh,
I'm super excited for it.
yeah, I know our resident D team member, uh, Jace and his pal Congo, are definitely looking forward to that one. Maybe we can have adventures with the monkey on Borderlands.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah. Um, but the reason I wanted to use Borderlands to kind of segue into these other shooter is we have these games that are obviously super big budget. Um, we know Borderlands is going to have DLC. We just know it. It's going to have some type of currency, microtransaction stuff in it because it is a 2K game. Um, that just makes me wonder, like, at what point do these devs realize that this is not a sustainable market? And we're starting to see that change, especially in on the live server side of things. Um, we've had successes, Helldivers being one that is game of the year every year until Sony fumbles or like they just cut the game off. Um, and then we've had like a couple of others, Warframe still going strong, Destiny 2, even though it gets a lot of love and a lot of hate at the same time, still going strong. And we're going to touch on Bungie's game in a second because we're going into our extraction shooter 101 here. But now we have developers coming out with a plethora of extraction shooters. And this is a genre that has largely been ignored if you look at the past decade of gaming. When we think extraction shooters, there are definitely two that come to mind. There are a couple of other ones, but they're very niche and the biggest one, of course, is Escape from Tarkov. It's the longest running extraction shooter that's been in the history of gaming. It has one of the largest extraction shooter communities. Um, and the other one is a game that's kind of recent. I think it came out probably in the past 5 years, I want to say. And it's a game called Hunt Showdown. Um, and those two have been like the two top of mind extraction shooters. Now, if you're coming into this and you have no idea what an extraction shooter is, and you're wondering what's the difference between your typical shooter and your extraction shooter, I I'm gonna refer to an older episode where we were like, something is the Dark Souls of whatever. And extraction shooters, for a much lesser term, are basically the Dark Souls of shooters. And the reason why they're this hardcore thing is the way they're designed is you go into your map, you might have a preset loadout, and as you're playing, your objective is to find loot. Uh, Maybe in Tarkov, you can build a base that you can kind of hide out in as you go out and do your exploring. And once you get enough loot or you've done your objective, you extract. And whatever you find is what you keep. The reason why extraction shooters are a bit more on the hardcore side is if you die on a run, whatever whatever you have on you and whatever you've accumulated, you lose. So then when you restart your game. You gotta hope that you have enough money to buy guns or whatever to go back in and do another run. And these games are really hard sells. Like the communities are very tight knit. They're very loyal, so it's hard to pull them off from a popular one and try to play these other ones. There's a reason why Escape from Tarkov has the population it does, and it doesn't change. Hunt Showdown has the population it does, and it doesn't change. And now we got these companies coming in with a bunch of new ones. We have Bungie, who is known for really phenomenal shooters, sort of rebooting-ish Marathon, which was a very popular old PC shooter. Marathon's now jumping into the extraction shooter space. The developers of the finals are coming out with a game called Arc Raiders. You have the developers of Hell Let Loose coming out with a game called Hunger. And that's just three that are announced this year alone, which is a lot when you think about it, especially when you consider what they're up against. Um, So it's interesting to see that so many developers are starting to go into this space. There's a couple other ones that are out there. They're not the ones getting the hype, so to speak. But these are the three that everyone's kind of keeping an eye on, all for different reasons. Um, these games are very hard sells. I don't know why executives are pushing for this or why these developers are saying, hey, let's make extraction shooters. Maybe it's the next big area that they got convinced to go into, especially after the battle royale craze kind of reached its peak. And then everyone was like, they were kind of tired of this. We're going to move away from it now and not play a lot of battle royales. We've seen them struggle. Fortnite obviously is the big king of the ring. The PUBG community is pretty stagnant when you think about it. Even Apex Legends has seen a bit of a downturn for as popular as it was. So the battle royale genre is kind of like stuck to what it knows and it stayed there. And then it knows that we have this audience, we're going to maintain this audience, and that's it. And now developers are looking into the extraction shooter. Marathon had its closed alpha. It was pretty mixed from a community standpoint. I enjoyed my time with it because one, it's Bungie. I love Bungie games. Two, I did like the aesthetic appeal of it. The visual design of the game is really cool to me. It's got like this cyberpunk, almost cel shaded look. And it still is part of the Marathon lore. And being a fan of the game Marathon, I'm like, oh, I know what I'm getting into when I get into this game. Arc Raiders was a little, it's probably more closer to the Escape from Tarkov type thing, where you have your loadout, you go into the world. You have quests that you can do fulfill. There's dangerous robots out there that can kill you, and of course, there's the threat of other teams. And that's another thing of extraction shooters. There is a PvE/PvP element of it because while you're in there going for loot, there are other players also looking for that same loot, and sometimes they're looking for you because if you have loot, they want to kill you and steal your stuff. Um, and some games do it very differently. And one of the things that I liked about Hunt Showdown is there's one central monster you have to go in and kill, but there's other smaller monsters that you can kill for smaller bounties. But the team that kills the main monster gets marked on everyone's map. So then you know that's the big bounty, and they're trying to get to the extraction point. So then your tactic becomes: do we just go after the smaller bounties, or do we try to go after this team and get the bigger bounty?
Hmm.
And chaos ensues and whatnot. Um, But yeah, so you have arc raiders, which is teams are going into looking for stuff to build back up their base while you're fighting other teams. There's also bosses in the game, so that's kind of one of the big things that's unique to arc raiders is that there's actual bosses where, like, if you want, you and the other teams could team up and try to take out the boss. But then it's like, who gets the loot? Do we fight the other teams to steal their loot, or do we try to share in the victory and we all get out of here and that's where the suspense comes in from it. I had a good time with Arc Raiders. I was able to play their closed technical test. A lot of fun game. Definitely not for me, mostly because it still felt janky. Like there's a very big difference from Bungie gunplay and then like other shooter gunplay. And I think that's one of the things Marathon has over these other shooters, where the game just plays so much more fluid. Um, but there are things that Marathon lacks that these other extraction shooters have, and they're very important. So one of the reasons extraction shooters are very popular is they have proximity chat. So even if you load into a game where you are teamed up at randoms, whether you're even if you're not in a party, you can chat with the other guys as long as their character is close to you. Um, while it wasn't added in Tarkov until like maybe 2 to 3 years ago, these studios launched their games with strictly solo modes where you can go in and really not have to worry about teaming up with anybody or not have to worry about going against other teams. It's just you, the loot, and the enemy AI. Now, because it's solo, the enemy AI is obviously tuned a little bit higher so that it presents a threat. And those modes are great, especially for people who don't have the time to sit there and grind an extraction shooter for 4 or 5 hours, like most of the community will probably do that. So it's interesting to see that marathon coming from Bungie, a studio that has been in the live service space for well over a decade now with Destiny and Destiny 2. Kind of, so I don't know if I want to call it a mistake, but it feels like a mistake. They're not launching Marathon with that type of solos mode. Maybe they didn't have the team to do it. Maybe there wasn't enough budget for it or whatever. It is something that said, hey, we hear you. It's just not something that's going to be ready at launch. So it sounds like it's something that the community has been like, we want this mode, we want this mode, we want this mode. The surveys have everyone has said on their survey, and even myself, when I did my survey, you need to have this as close to launch as possible. Because if you do not have this mode, your game is dead on arrival. Your game is going to be Concord 2.
Damn.
Yeah. Like I'm real. I'm real. And I said it. I made that point in the Marathon Discord. I was like, if they don't have these particular features, like this game is the next Concord, and I don't want that to happen because Bungie is a good studio. They listen to their community. Sometimes they have missteps because they're blind investors, and they got to answer to investors, and most specifically, right now, they got to answer to Sony. Um, like they got to make the money, and it's like, guys, if you just listen to the feedback, and if you can get this out within the launch window. I say maybe within the first 6 to 8 months, and you announce that you're doing it. Um, Marathon has a shot. I think the Bungie faithful are gonna pick it up, because Bungie faithful are loyal. Like I'm still playing Destiny. There are times Destiny pisses me off. I just take a break. I stay away from it. And then when I see that, oh, they're doing some things right, I go back into it. And then like, especially most recently, you look at how Bungie has been working nonstop to turn around the feeling and the energy behind Destiny 2 and just adding so much content drop after content drop. They're changing their expansion mindset going forward. The expansions you can lock in for the year, and you have both DLCs. All the seasonal stuff is free to everyone, whether you buy the DLC or not. Fantastic. The dungeons, free to everyone, whether you buy the DLC or not. So, like the content that people want to play, it's no longer locked behind a paywall. Now, obviously, the raids, which are the bigger experiences, and certain other experiences are locked behind that DLC. But the fact that they're willing to take a step back and say, hey, we know that there's this content that you like, this part of it's going to be free, this part of it's going to be free. They redid all the loot. They just recently dropped like three modes back to back in the past 3 weeks. They gave us a dungeon mode where that's open to everyone, free, where you could go into these rotating dungeons, get loot. You can even play it on an easier mode where they teach you how to play the dungeon and you can beat it solo. You won't get the fancy exotic drop at the end if you do it on the easy mode, but you still get access to the loot. That's what everyone wants in these games. We want the loot.
Yeah.
Um, So like it's interesting to see Bungie kind of have one game in their hand where they're like, we kind of figured it out. We're gonna do this and it's gonna work and people are excited again. And then they take this other game and it's like, hey, we know you like Marathon, but we're gonna tell this completely different story. And they're kind of going back to the ways of old from like Activision days where it feels very money grubby, but I understand why they have to do that because they're under a lot of hot fire, so to speak. Considering that Sony put their foot down, had them cut their losses. They had to lay off some team members. They were like, you better refocus, which is why I think Destiny has had this refocused energy. There was this proposed MOBA or MMO thing that they were working on. Sony literally took that in-house. They said, the team that's working on this, we're gonna take them. They recently made an announcement of a new live service team called Team LFG. That's what they took from Bungie. And they were like, here's this new thing. And it's made from former Bungie devs. They've hired in a bunch of other people from like ex Fortnite devs, ex RPG devs, and stuff like that. So it's interesting to see that they did that, especially after they canceled so many other live service games. And now they're like, here's the other live service thing. But because it's from Bungie, it'll work. I think that's what their mentality
Here's hoping.
is.
That's really all I have to
Yeah,
say. Like, I hope it works out. I hope it works out for them, and that it sees the success that they need it to have. Because like
I,
it doesn't matter if it's from a AAA studio, small studio. It doesn't matter. I hate to see people put so much work into something and it basically like you said, it basically be dead on arrival,
mhm.
and that effort just goes wasted. I hate to see that. So I
Yeah,
genuinely hope that this works out for them.
I hate to see it too, but sometimes the writing's on the wall when you look at the game. You know, we look at Concord and everyone's like, well, why did it fail? And there's a lot of reasons why it failed. A lot of people were just tired of the hero shooter genre. Character design goes so far in these kind of games. And most of the characters just looked uninteresting. They didn't look appealing. The gameplay was very generic. Like there were just a lot of things that had they done taken the time to really look into what people want from gaming, everything about Concord was just in the negatives. Like I played the demo and I was like, this is not good. Like I'd rather play Overwatch, and I don't like Overwatch anymore. Let me correct that. I don't like Overwatch's competitive game anymore. I like what they have now. They recently added this thing called Stadium where you can take a character, level them up, and you can kind of like switch abilities and kind of mold them into your own. And they reset every season, and it's the healthiest thing they've ever added to the game. And it has me playing Overwatch again, which,
Do,
which is a shocker. I know.
do you want to talk about it?
I don't
I,
know. I
I'm
have
I'm
feelings.
I'm I'm here for you. If you ever need to talk about it, I'm here for you. I'm a safe person,
Honestly,
Ken.
I went back to it because I was just getting tired of Rivals. Marvel Rivals started to make the mistakes earlier Overwatch 1 was making. And I was just like, the community is asking for things, and you're not even doing anything about it. And the player count has been affected as a result. If you look at Marvel Rivals player count, it's not bad, but it's definitely a lot less than when it launched. Remember, the game came out in February. We're now 4 months later, and it was like in the 300,000s or before, and now it's barely cracking 100K. That's a huge drop off. I mean, and that type of drop off happens because people move on to other games, they play other things. Um, but the large stigma from the community is like, yo, you guys need to add these things because like your game's just not fun anymore. And the Marvel Rivals devs are just like, here's Emma Frost with her thick thighs. Enjoy. And I'm like, no, I uninstall. I play Overwatch now. I'm back on Ash. Bob, do something. Um, so yeah, it's just funny how the tide kind of turned. Everyone was talking about Stadium. I was like, it can't be that good, can it? I re-download it. I tried out for a couple of stages, and I'm like, this is the best thing ever. Why was I not around when this started? So yeah, Overwatch was fun again, at least for that particular
Yeah.
mode. Outside of that, I'm not touching competitive. Maybe I'll do quick play, but no. I jump on, I do my Stadium grind, and that's it. And I'm having a blast with it. Stadium is the best thing that they could have ever added to Alpha. And you being a former Overwatch fan, I think you would actually like it too.
We'll see. I've never
I know
like
it's a little daunting to like. Do I want to go back into Overwatch? I don't
well,
know. Oh no, you start getting the itch.
well, because here's the thing too. Ever since I walked away from Overwatch One, honestly,
Hmm.
I haven't picked up another hero shooter like that since. And I think it's just because I just don't enjoy that style of game anymore. It doesn't have anything to do with Overwatch specifically. It doesn't have anything to do with Marvel Rivals specifically. It's just that particular style of game. I'm just not feeling that anymore.
Doesn't appeal to you anymore. Yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from because since we're sticking on the subject of like AAA games and things like that,
Sure.
we had the Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer recently dropped. Everyone was like, "Yeah, GTA 6," and I'm just like, "Am I old now? Am I jaded?" Because I watched that whole trailer and I'm like, "This is technically that's about the biggest compliment I gave it because Rockstar does make technically sound games visually and everything." I was like, "This was all done in real time. This is pretty amazing. I don't care." I was like, I think, and it's I'm not saying that everyone has to be, if you're into it and you want to play, by all means go. I just know that I think I have actually outgrown that type of game. It just no longer appeals to me. And I think that's the same way that you probably feel about Overwatch, where it's like, it just no longer appeals to me. The hero shooter is kind of like meh,
Yeah.
don't care. Yeah. For me, it's just because I'm like a big fan of shooters in general that I'm willing to give any one of them a try. Extraction shooters have been very hit or miss for me recently. I played Tarkov. Punch Showdown was one that I was into for a good bit, and then like the game just kind of got stale, and I got bored, and I was like, I'll move away from it. And now that these studios are coming out with them left, right, front, and center, I'm like, oh, I like these games. Maybe one of these is the one that I can get into. And I guess it is down to point of preference. If you like Bungie games and you want like a really fancy looking, colorful extraction shooter, Marathon might be for you. If you're looking for something that's more in that hardcore vein of, the extraction shooters, Arc Raiders is definitely a good one. I just don't think Arc Raiders is for me because, like I said, I kind of fell off with Tarkov. I fell off with Hunt Showdown. This feels like one of those kind of games, and I'm just like, I know I'm not going to stick with it. I did have fun playing it, but it was just one of those things where like, this is not one I'm going to repeatedly dive into. Whereas something like Marathon, I know I can play it in a way that is comfortable for me, where I can just do my faction quests, run in. Once my faction quests are done, I'm done with the game. Whereas these other ones, like they kind of feel like you have to kind of stick with it for a couple of hours to really get like the really good stuff and things like that. Whereas Marathon kind of feels more of that ease of play, like that easier pick up and play thing, while still maintaining some of the hardcore facets of what the extraction shooters tend to have. Um, Then the third one that I wanted to mention was a game called Hunger, which is from the developers of Hell Let Loose. I think it's in early access. I haven't had a chance to really fully check that out yet. But the game looks interesting because it has like this weird medieval World War II hybrid feeling. Because like it
Interesting.
looks like it looks like it takes place in the medieval ages, but they have World War II weaponry. And I like when games kind of meld two different time frames and it works, and it just looks really cool. Um, so that one looks good. I just haven't had a chance to play it, so I'm not gonna comment on whether it's good or not. It looks interesting. Um, but being that it has that graphical style that's similar to Tarkov, Hunt Showdown, Arc Raiders, I think that one's probably gonna fall more in line with the super hardcore extraction shooter. And I'm like, I don't think I have the time for that. I already grind away at so many other games. Technically, we already grind enough in a sort of a extraction light because Helldivers has elements of the extraction shooter
Hmm.
genre. It's just not super hardcore about it. Like you don't lose your stuff when you die. You still have your guns and stuff. Your stick with you. The only thing you lose is your lives, and then if you fail the missions, mission over. And you just dive back in. There's no penalty. There's no real large penalty
Yeah.
for it. Whereas in the extraction shooters, like you literally lose everything. Oh, all my loot and all the stuff that I found gone. Um, so Helldivers is kind of like the lighter version of the extraction shooter motif. And I think that's what makes it fun because like you're unknowingly playing an extraction shooter, and that's kind of cool when you think about it. When a game is of a particular genre, but it's not at the same time,
Hmm.
that's really cool. But yeah, that's my extraction shooter like 101. I don't want to go like too crazy into it because I'm not going to speak for like 4 hours. Um, but just know that like extraction shooters can be fun if you're into that kind of game. If you like the high risk, high reward gameplay, if you like playing a roguelike and you just want to get that one more run in, they're kind of like that. I think maybe extraction shooters are kind of how roguelikes may have come about in a way. That whole feeling of just one more run, getting certain loot, losing it if you die.
I
Very
could,
big similarities between the two.
I could definitely see how one may have definitely influenced the other, or vice versa. Like the similarities are definitely there, but
Hmm.
I'm very curious to see how the landscape of video games is going to evolve over the next year or so with the apparent resurgence now of the extraction shooter, with all of these new extraction shooters seemingly popping up out of nowhere
Yeah,
all
yeah.
at the same time. So it's kind of like, this is an interesting direction that we seem to be going in the gaming industry. I'm not going to say it's a bad one. We'll just see how it plays out. Hey,
No,
this might be the fire under their ass that the gaming industry needed to like kind of get things back into gear, or it could be the worst possible decision they've ever made. Well, we won't know in
uh,
like
I,
for the
I,
next few months.
I think it's going to be a bit of both, solely because extraction shooters are an extremely hard sell. When you tell a player, hey, this is a loot-based game, that when you go on a run, you die, you lose all your loot, that turns some people off. So like it's
Yeah,
it's definitely for a very specific market, and I don't know how well the industry will take to that when it's only gonna be for a specific market and not what the industry needs, which is games where everyone can sort of play it. We've had that. I think that was the biggest success for the battle royale genre, especially when games like Fortnite came out and all the other ones that came out after it. Their biggest thing was making it so that they were simple enough to pick up and play and still reward you even if you weren't great at it. And then extraction studios kind of run counterintuitive to that mindset because they're not easy games. They are super hardcore. So it's going to be interesting. I think they'll do decently enough. I think Marathon's advantage is the fact that it's a Bungie game, and Bungie has some really diehard fans. Hi, I'm one of them. Um, I am curious to see how games like Arc Raiders and Hunger will do because those are from studios that aren't that well known. Like unless you are like us, where we eat, sleep, and breathe the industry, like knowing that Arc Raiders is from the creators of the Finals, which was a battle royale game that was kind of decent. I played it; it was fun for a bit. Not my kind of thing, I'd rather play like the other ones. But apparently successful enough where the game is still going on right now. It's one of the battle royales that have actually made it. And now they have this new game coming out, which kind of has the community taking notice, which is always a good thing when the community takes notice. Whether it's good or bad, it's always a good thing if the community notices your game. Um, the only time it's really bad is the community notices and they go, "This looks like crap," and then they don't play it or they don't buy it, and then
yeah.
the game fails, and then they become a $400 million failure. Cough, Concord, cough. Ah,
You done?
sometimes, sometimes you just know. Like I'm sorry. Like sometimes you just know. You look at the game and you go, "Yeah, this one's not gonna do well." And sometimes you just know. But when it comes to these extraction shooters, I have hope because they're a genre that hasn't been explored. I like that the industry's taking a risk, but I don't know if the industry understands the kind of risk they're taking with these type of games. I just think they see, oh, here's an area of gaming we haven't touched. Maybe there's money there. So they're like, make it. I don't
Only
know.
only time will tell.
That's all we can hope for. Time will definitely tell when it comes to that particular genre. But in the meantime, we have smaller AA games that look great and play great, like Clair Obscur, Expedition 33, and The Midnight Walk, and upcoming games like Mafia Old Country, which is going to be like $50 in August, and it's a single player game, and it's not open world. That's the biggest turn on for me. I was like, oh, it's just going to be a straight adventure game set in the Mafia universe? Sold.
Well, I think that just about does it for us here tonight.
And
I'm
it does.
probably gonna end up playing some more Gunfire Reborn when we sign off. Actually, if you want to stick around, I can show you a little bit of the gameplay for it if you want to take a look at it.
I promised some Destiny stuff with people, so when I sign off, I'm jumping on
Understood.
Destiny.
Another time then.
Definitely, for sure.
Uh,
Uh, we have reached the part where we sign off.
yeah, and hopefully, maybe I'll be back to my normal backdrop next month. That's been a whole saga, and it's honestly there's a non-0% chance it's just going to become a running bit where my backdrop just changes every single episode at this point. So we'll
Yeah.
who knows? We'll see.
All right.
Anyway, that's a next month problem.
Exactly. Sounds like that's a June problem. Alrighty. Anyways, I think that does it for our show. But if you like the content and want to continue the conversation, feel free to join us over in our Discord, link being dropped in the chat right now. Thanks to our ever-present Vinnie Mac in the truck. So we have our Discord. Feel free to add us. Talk about what anything you've heard on the show today or any other games that may pique your interest. I'm always down to discuss gaming in our video games channel in our Discord. If you wish to support us even further, you can follow us on this very Twitch. We have all our various socials, including our YouTube channel, where we just dropped our season finale of Malevelon Creek, a very democratic miniseries. Episode 5, we have a 5 episode series right there on our YouTube. Please be sure to like and subscribe and check us out over on that as well. If you wish to support us even further, we do have a merch we have our merch site, which you can check out in the link below. You can buy a D hoodie, a D t-shirt, or even a D mug for drinking water and other beverages. Beer. I don't condone drinking. Sorry. On top of our merch site, you can also find some of our merch for our upcoming wrestling themed video game and our visual novel, Kokoro no Pro, which is also available on our itch.io page. We have our playable demo on the itch.io page of our wrestling themed visual novel. So that's there for you to play. And if you wish to continue on top of that, check out our sponsor, Image Anime. At imageanime.com, you can use our promo code DISCOUNTSHIP to save $100 to have free ground shipping on all purchases of $100 or more. So definitely check out that site. If you're yourself an anime fan or know someone who is a fan of anime, have them use our code DISCOUNTSHIP and they can save some money on buying all that glorious, glorious anime product like body pillows and stuff. Yeah. Whatever floats your boat. I don't care.
We don't
Uh,
judge here.
we don't. Anyway, I'm sure more links are being dropped in it. My brain is farting right now, so I can't think of what else we have. Um, but click on all the things and follow us and like us, and you know
Please,
we'll
please
be
like,
back here next month.
Please like us. We're desperate for validation.
Yeah, not that desperate. We're adults.
We're a
We're
little
grown
bit
adults.
desperate.
Anyways, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show. And as always, until next time, you've been decoded.
I'm gonna go snort Sudafed.
Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and follow us across social media for updates. Thanks for watching!